you everyone. Welcome back. Welcome to day 2 of CustomerX Con. So happy that you're all here, and we are going to get started with the first session, Talk Their Talk, the multiple languages of customer advocacy with Alison Bukowski. So we'll welcome her up to the stage. Thank you.
I've got to click, I've got to speak, there's a lot going on this morning. So I'll throw this up. Thank you guys for having me and listening to me for the next 30 minutes or so. So my daughter was texting me this morning, I haven't even had my coffee yet, to let me know that I need to not say like, don't say smile a lot, and don't look at my notes at all. So I wasn't nervous until she started sending those text messages, but we'll go ahead and jump in. I always say that I would really rather this be a conversation than a presentation, and it's nice to see so many people that I know, and there's so many new faces out there as well. So I'll certainly share, hopefully, some insights and some lessons learned, but I want to leave plenty of time at the end as well for Q&A and some open dialogue. So some of you, like I said, you know who I am. The top picture is definitely more representative of me, but the bottom one looks better on LinkedIn. And if anybody has recipes that they want to swap, hiking stories or destinations I should check out, let me know. Or if you just have lots of cute pictures of your pets on your phone, connect with me at lunch. I figured what better way to start off the morning than with a little bit of an airing of grievances or an opportunity to complain a little bit. So for about 2 minutes, and BT said she would jot some of these down. You could just call them out, we don't have to be formal. I want to hear about what bugs you, about your internal stakeholders. Just shout them out, we're in a safe space. Andrew's here, he's sales, but if you've got one about sales, that's totally fine.
That getting advocacy is easy. Right?
That understanding advocacy is easy.
And just getting advocates.
Like, just getting advocates is easy. Okay.
I'm going to write a little out. How's that?
Sales getting a request for tomorrow.
Your lack of planning has now become my emergency.
Yes.
Going around the reference program, the little black book that we've all know exists. Anybody else? Marketing, C-suite, executives, they're all fair game.
That you don't need budget to do any of this.
We don't need money.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah.
A focus on marquee customers only.
Big logos are all that matter.
Wanting success stories turned around in a week.
Success stories, thanks for not saying case study. Heard me complaining yesterday. Turning those around without any opportunity, right? Like, it's just unrealistic timeline. Anyone else?
Just asking for more assets without a why.
I need tons of it, but I don't know why I need it or why you should do it for me. That's a good one.
Complaining that there aren't enough advocates without ever looking at the roster to see if we have advocates.
Just somehow they know that you don't have what they need, even though they haven't actually looked into it. Okay. So we started with complaining. Now I get to be really unpopular and tell you all that it's actually you, it's not them. And what I mean by that is when you took on your job, customer marketing, you're not just a customer marketer, you're not just an advocacy expert, you're not an event planner. I mean, you're all those things, but you didn't know that you also have to be a translator. And what I mean by that is you need to be able to speak every single language of your internal stakeholders, and not only do you need to be able to do it, but you have to be fluent in it, okay? So I thought it would be good, now that you all love me so much because we've complained and I've told you that you're the problem, to maybe talk about how we can fix it, right? So there's a lot of information out there about translation, what makes a good translator. For today, I boiled it down, right? Here's 5 key skills that I think are extremely valuable. to translation. So we're going to just take a quick journey, and we're also going to go on a little trip to Paris, right? I think we all have a little wanderlust right now. So if my helpers will help, just hand out a little token of my appreciation for today. Let's kind of dive into some of these, right, and break these down. So if we're going to Paris, and we're going to keep these 5 skills of translation in mind, this is the first one. Oh, it's actually not the first one that I thought was going to be here, but that's my fault. So let's go to the one that I want, this one. Keep in mind that you are the expert. I call this professional pride. I've heard a lot of people at the conference talk about how I don't even know where to start, right? Because I'm asked to do 500,000 things. But when you're getting ready to go to Paris for a week, right, you at least know kind of what you want to do. You've at least sort of Googled, what am I going to do in Paris when you're on the flight? Or if you're like me, you have like a Google spreadsheet and 29 documents and a whole portfolio of paperwork. But for this trip, you know that you want to go to the Louvre, you want to see the Eiffel Tower, you're going to have a picnic along the River Seine, and you're going to take a quick trip over to Champagne, okay? So you know what you want to do. You kind of become the expert for your own trip. So if you're translating, why would it be any different, right, when you're working with your internal stakeholders? But don't lose sight of the fact that you're an expert. You're at a conference, for goodness sake. You were hired for a reason. It means that you know your stuff, and don't lose sight of that. Tim mentioned the break book yesterday. I said I do the same thing. Have a full, I don't care where you put it, but keep your wins handy. Not only because they're great for inserting into decks and communicating to your stakeholders that what you do matters, but if you need a little pick-me-up, have them handy. It seems kind of silly, but we all have those days. Know how to execute. And I'm pretty sure, I could just look down here, I suppose, that you want to make sure that you have sound processes, right? And what I mean by that, when I started at Menlo Security, I didn't really go into my professional background, but I'm 6 months or so in, and at a smaller company. For those of you who know who I am, I spent over a decade building out advocacy programs at a little company called United Health Group. Huge difference, but you're the expert, you know what you want when you go in, right? So if we're going to be going on this trip, to Paris, you know that you're not going to hit up the Louvre and Champagne in the same day, right? It doesn't make logical sense. You have to put together some sort of plans and keep things flexible. You need to do the legwork in order to be a great translator. When I started, I put together a 20-page manifesto, I'll call it, because it was a little bit of philosophy, a little bit of strategy, but it also really got into some of the processes and the things that I wanted to achieve. We've talked a lot about prioritizing, right? And making sure that we key into the stakeholders and we know what we want. Why? Because I'm the expert, right? They hired me to do a job, and you guys need to do that as well, even if it's just scratching stuff down, so that you know what to do when they ask you to zig, and you know that you need to zig. Remember why you got started. We're going to France, right? And even when you're traveling and there's a language barrier, that can be overwhelming. And so is working with your internal stakeholders, right? So you need to keep in mind that we still have fun when we go on the trip, right? We go to France and we get swept away by, the reasons that we were there, whether it's to take in the history, the culture, even if you just want to load up on carbs and drink wine. I don't care why you're there, but you love it. And you need to keep that in mind when you're working with your internal stakeholders. And what I mean by that is that you got into this field for a reason, right? Don't lose sight of that because there's a language barrier, okay? Keep your wins, handy, have that break book, etc. You have to remain flexible and adaptable, and you need to throw away that black and white thinking, right? So I have my heart set on that picnic along the River Seine, but it rained. I mean, what do? You go see Mona, you check her out in the Louvre, and then hopefully the clouds, clear, and then you go ahead and you go and you have your picnic, right? You have to remain flexible, and the same is true of your internal stakeholders. They're not always ready for you, and you're not always ready for them. You may not have 25 advocates to deliver 25 case studies, to your marketing organization. Or product marketing doesn't have their roadmap finished, so you can't possibly, help them. You have to do this one step at a time, and I think bite size, right? That's another thing that we heard yesterday. Find those easy wins, start with those small goals, and move forward. So, this quote, take a moment and read this. I love it because I get so tired of, let's talk about our strategy. Somebody was talking about yesterday, we've been having, maybe it was when we were together for the Slap 5 user group, but we've been talking about this for 6 months, but nobody wants to actually commit to doing it, right? There's no reason that these two things should be mutually exclusive. They have to happen hand in hand. So just a quick question. There's a lot of goals for customer advocacy. Does everyone agree with the 5? I picked 5 that are up here. Or am I missing something, or do you not agree? And that's okay too. You good? Anything that's missing that we want to make sure we capture? Yeah.
The other thing I would say, which is the point before, is also that like products roadmap innovation piece as well. I would say that much.
Okay. Remember that. We'll come back to that. So BT and Tim inspired me. I hope you enjoyed your trip to Paris. Now we're going to get into the ring, and we're going to kind of battle it out. I can't do the voice, so let's get ready to translate. I'm not even going to try to do it in the WWE style. But I picked 4 groups, right, of internal stakeholders. And how do we look at these 4 groups? And how do we translate? We talked a lot about strategic growth initiatives. There you go, Jeff. Conversations with these particular stakeholders. What do they want? Because chances are we can support all of it, but we have to find a way to speak their language and to translate it back. So I'd like to just spend some time, if you guys are all right with it, walking through each one and taking a look at those goals. And then how can we just really execute? I hope that I'm going to leave you with some concrete examples, right, of what we can do. So let's start with customer success. I think this is the low-hanging fruit. I do, but you may not agree. Remember earlier I said to be a good translator, you have to do your homework, right? So I did my homework. I spoke with our SVP of Customer Success, our Chief Revenue Officer, our Chief Marketing Officer, and our Chief Operating Officer. People like talking about themselves, and I don't mean that in a selfish way, so just ask. Ask the question. Maybe you have some KPIs, OKRs, MBOs, whatever acronym you guys use, but you should have them set at the organizational level. Take that and then ask for clarification. So even if you don't like my suggestions, you can at least see that this came from the horse's mouth, the SVP of Customer Success. I wish we could go through all 5 of these. I'm only going to spend 5 minutes though per group, so we're going to look at 2 that I thought probably would resonate with this group. Okay, anticipate the needs of customers so they achieve the desired outcomes. What do they actually mean? It would be a whole lot easier if I knew what customers were thinking or what they actually wanted from our solutions. Now your job's not done. You've translated it that far, but the hard part is, how do you translate it back so that what you do becomes very apparent, helpful, and useful, right, for your partner? So how do I translate to customer success? Seems to me that if you were given kind of a roadmap to our customers, that would be really impactful, and you could speak their language. How can you do it? A couple of examples, but when we, Q&A, I'd love to hear from you guys too. Advocacy program or advocacy just conversations. I said start small, right? Do not underestimate the fact that you have a relationship with these customers that nobody else in your organization has. Nobody gets to talk to them in the way that you talk to them or about what you're talking about. This is a gold mine. I weave in questions when I'm presenting and talking about our advocacy program. And I immediately take that and feed it back to my CSMs. I highly recommend that you guys do customer onboarding interviews. And what I mean by that is once a customer kind of says, raises their hand, I'm willing to be an advocate, here's the things that I like to do, use that as an opportunity to grab 30 minutes. And can I dig deeper and ask them about their experience with your company, the products, whatever you want to ask, transcribe it, and ship it off to customer success, to the CSMs, because they don't have that information in the way that you just collected it. We'll talk about marketing in a second too, which by the way, I reported to the CS organization, a little different. I'm still fascinated by how we all report. Like product marketing was a new one for me. You know, customer marketing, product marketing, CS, I even know a couple that reported to sales. The second one here, and reference conversations, right? If you have the opportunity to be on those calls, I usually am, and I position it as, let me help you. Let me schedule this for you. Let me host this for you. You learn so much. Sales is gonna really glom onto that as well as CSMs. Reduce churn, right? We improve retention, etc. What does it mean? Well, we're responsible for renewals. I'm measured on this very quantifiable goal. Our whole department is in trouble, right, if we don't meet it. I translate that back to my SVP, who happens to be my boss, and I say, actually, one of the easiest ways to achieve that quantifiable goal is to deliver something non-quantifiable. And that's the experience that you can offer to these customers. It doesn't have to be a big event, a big splashy cap. Quick customer networking opportunities, small groups, networking events. This also allows you to get over that, like, we all want C-suite. Your C-suite saying that. And your customers are saying, but we have practitioners and we have product experts, and why shouldn't they be included in the conversation? This is your chance to get at some really useful information, and then show your appreciation. And call out Tim, because he mentioned an example yesterday, which was like a big, like amazing, I want to be your customer and go to New York. But if you don't have the budget or you don't have that opportunity, a water bottle's great, but most of us don't need another water bottle. If you are listening, I had one customer, she's like, oh yeah, I gotta go to my freezer now because it's time for my Snicker bar. We were talking, and she keeps them in there, and so I sent her a case. It wasn't that expensive. Those are the little things. I know a lot of you are doing them, but like build it into your budget. It's in mine as a budget line, appreciation, gifts. So make sure that you have that. Any questions or comments on this one, on CS? Yeah.
I'm interested that you get to participate in reference calls. So when I started at my current job, it was just told to me that we don't participate in reference calls. So I've always just assumed that to be true. But I think that's really cool that you get to do that. So do you ever get pushback on that? Is that ever uncomfortable for the customers?
Position it internally to your stakeholders, translate it as a value add. Because they won't think of that necessarily, that, hey, I'm willing to schedule it, I'm willing to coordinate it, and let the prospect tell you if they're comfortable. Your customer's not gonna care. And again, you're the expert.
Yeah.
Not whoever's telling you that you can't be on a reference call. If the prospect doesn't want to because they're not comfortable, obviously, adhere to that. But you definitely have an opportunity. Yeah.
You mentioned that you package onboarding calls back to the CS team. What format do you like? Just kind of Google Doc, or do you make it pretty in a slide?
It's a variety, to be completely honest. Sometimes it's just a transcription, and I will share that because it's just raw data, and there's nothing wrong with raw data, right? I mean, marketing will make things pretty and stuff like that. My CSMs care more about just what was the feedback. And then to the presentation yesterday, and then if it's interesting, we can take that and create testimonials. And then, if that's really interesting, we can maybe look at a case study. So then you start to kind of, but for this example, I just provide kind of, I clean it up a little bit, but it's kind of just a Q&A sort of format. Clicker not working anymore. Oh, hold on. So, marketing. And again, even if you sit in marketing, and I have as well, and a lot of you probably do, this is more kind of focused on, directly from my chief marketing officer, these goals here. So I'll just let you guys take a look. Because again, I figured if nothing else, you get this out of this conversation, which I think is hugely valuable. So depending on how you sit, there's a lot to marketing now, right? There's integrated marketing, there's digital marketing, there's customer marketing, there's corporate, communications, there's analyst relations. So I think this stuff still resonates. So let's go ahead and take a look here. All right. I picked these two because these are just two that I thought were interesting. Determine market awareness, right? What are preferences, and understand those. What do they actually mean? I've got my head, no wait, hold on, let me back up. That wasn't gonna be a nice way of saying it. I'm so focused on demand gen that I have no idea what customers actually want and need. Like I said, safe space. I love my marketing partners, but right, they're so focused on demand gen and filling the funnel that unless they're at maybe like a trade show or a conference, they don't get to talk to customers. So here's your big opportunity. And keep in mind, this is a and. Everything I just said for CS, you can probably apply a fair amount of it here. I share notes, right, from customer conversations. I have a standing meeting that pulls together all of the people. I started one-on-ones when I started 6 months ago. That was a waste of time. Figured out who I needed and just put everybody together, right, which is usually my design person, my content person, my demand gen, contact. I do a survey every year of our advocates, an annual survey, to kind of find out how am I doing? Am I delivering value? And are you enjoying the experience? Throw, some of your internal partners, especially marketing, a bone, and let them add a question to that survey. Let them tell you, what would you love to hear from customers? And ask and include it. It's not a heavy lift for you to do that, but it's very meaningful, right, to your internal stakeholders. Journey mapping, we talked about that. I'm not an expert. Talk to Kyle if you want to be an expert in that, but I'm starting that. And marketing has to be involved, or CS has to be involved. So does sales. It has to be a cross-functional thing, and that's kind of more of a long-term strategic goal. Maybe not a quick win, but something that you should definitely focus on. Invite them to showcase what you do. You put on a cab or a customer networking event, you never want your internal staff to overshadow your customers, but let the CMO attend. Let your SVP, of marketing attend. Let them see and hear from customers. It, again, seems small. Maybe you're already doing it, but I really, I always hope when I do these presentations that there's seasoned people out there. I hope you get something. If you're brand new, you're getting something out of it. It makes it a fun challenge when you come up here to speak. And then small groups, customer panels. If you really have solid relationships with your customers, it's easy to ask them, hey, can we grab 30 minutes? My marketing team would love to get your feedback. Oh, that was me, sorry. Okay. They would love to get your feedback. So that's another one. Message products appropriately, the second one. What does it actually mean? Product marketing gets the product. They're really good at product, and they should be, right? But they don't know how to make them resonate with customers always. It's the age-old marketing, like we need the right personas, and we need to be saying the right things. All of that is true, but what I have found when I'm translating that back to them is, guess what? I have a vault of customers. Use that word, it's very impressive. I have a vault of customers that would love to talk to you about our products and our solutions. So this can be product marketing, it can also just be your product dev team as well. Do focus groups. So my product team just came to me a week ago, said we're putting a new dashboard, a new UI on our product, but we haven't we're not all the way there yet. First of all, I applauded her for actually reaching out before the product was finished, wanting customer feedback. And we have 3 one-on-one conversations scheduled with customers. Help them get that information. They're hungry for it. And then what you can also do when you're doing a focus group, let's say a focus group or one-on-one conversations, it doesn't have to be a group. If one of those customers really stands out, and then we can have a more detailed conversation, and then we now have quotes, and then we can do, you know, a customer story, right, from that. So start small and move on. Ooh, all right. This is my favorite one. Sales is my Achilles heel. And it always has been. And I know that you would think they should be the easiest partner. Okay, I gotta ask. How many of you, I should have done this at the beginning. How many of you, even though they should be the easiest, have a struggle with sales? Are you listening, Andrew?
I'm taking copious notes.
These are the 5 from my CRO, right? These are the things that he's focused on. Here's the thing about doing translation work for sales. I think it is the hardest one for me because you have got to get it so close to their native language. Like others, we have a little bit of gray area, but you need to be as fluent as humanly possible to have it resonate. So these 5 goals, we'll take the easy one, right? The softball. Money. Drive revenue. I need to make money or I lose my job or I lose, team members. How do you translate that back to the work that you're doing and translate it back to sales? Stretch the truth. Don't lie. Just stretch the truth a little bit. Everything my team does is for you, sales. Everything I do is to help grow the business, to help, bring in new dollars, whether it's upsell, cross-sell, or net new business, right? And how can you tell them that you're doing it? References is the easy one, but it's the most important one, probably. For how many of you, yes, references are, how many are references? And then I'll ask how many are content. How many would say references is your biggest value add to sales? Content? Oh, it's like a 50-50, I like it. So for references, also take this opportunity to help me help you, please. We have a process, use it. We do SLAs, right? That there's a certain turnaround and an expectation for customer references. Please do not fill out the request for a reference with 5 words. I have to go back to you then. So, but be positive about it, right? And showcase, I can accelerate that deal. I can help you close that deal. And why? Because I know my advocates, and I'll get you the right person. And I'll help connect it. Heck, if I'm able, I'll sit on that call, and I'll give you all the feedback from that. So you can share that with them. Also, this usually perks up their ears a little bit. I talk to these customers all the time. I actually hear about potential cross-sell and upsell opportunities before they do. Because it's just the nature of the relationship, right, that most people have. Does that include that we started late? Yes. Okay. All right, so make sure that you're showcasing that, right? And you're highlighting it and you're going back to them. You have a friend for life. If you can tell a salesperson, I just scored you a $100,000 upsell opportunity, okay? This one I actually really like and I was surprised to see. Use data to drive sales strategy. What does it actually mean? Show me the money, but show me the numbers too. I need data so that I can make resourcing decisions. And how do we help with that? If you don't have checkpoints with all of these internal stakeholders, get it, make it happen. In addition to that, show them all your data in 2 ways. Show them who your advocates are, show them where they're located. I create a map that I have on a slide with little dots that shows where all these customers are located and what geography, what industry, because a lot of times we're focused on that kind of thing, right? We're going after a particular area. I was able to do that and get 2 headcount for my Eastern sales region because we knew we had advocates that would be willing to reference and advocate, you know, for the business.
That is brilliant. I just want to say.
Thank you. Oh, I got the finger snap. I was already waiting for Gina to do that for me. It's like the handshake from Paul Hollywood on Great British Baking Show. Also, you want to, this is where you have to have your data. You need to track the percentage of deals that you influence with advocacy efforts, how many deals you touch. I don't care if it was cross-sell, upsell, net new business, reference, the activities, you know, where you, a customer was invited to a prospect marketing event, you have to be tracking it. I have to go fast now, but if you want to talk about how you do that, let me know. The last one, I saved, it's not the, I don't think it's the best for last, but sorry, Jeff. Executive leadership, right? So this came from our chief operating officer, and actually one of them is from my CEO as well. And I don't like the term C-suite. I have a little bit of a beef with that, because we've talked about it to death. How do we impress the C-suite? It's not about the C-suite. It's whoever your executive strategic thinkers are. At United Health Group, my CEO didn't know my name. Why would he? Now he does, because I'm in a smaller organization. So it's not about the title, but just think about these people as the ones that are making the business go, right? And they're making the executive and strategic decisions. Growth, not surprising. I have a few more examples, but I'll just do a couple here. We need to grow. It's how we stay viable as a company, right? Like we're pre-IPO, and so there's a big push, right, to do that. How are you going to help with that? Take everything we just talked about, that data that you have for sales, but you have to condense it to like one slide, because they don't have the attention span to take in, and nor should they, to take in more. But make sure you're showcasing how much money you're influencing and you're bringing in. That's number one. Cabs. Like I've heard cab more times in the first 6 months at Menlo than I ever heard in 10 years at my previous company. It matters to them because for the executive team, that to them says customers all together in one place, and I can, you know, hear from them. So make it happen. Have them there. I'm doing a networking event, which is not a cab. That's another conversation next week. But I made sure my CEO and COO are primary in that event. They will participate, they will present, and they'll be there to hear what customers are talking about. Trust and awareness. Actually, there was a ... Trust and awareness with customers, and also trust and awareness internally, like with our employees. So all that we're doing with internal stakeholders to translate, that's going to help internally. With customers, the big one I'll say on this is peer reviews. Here's a plug for peer reviews. Because we all know now peer-to-peer selling is what it's all about, right? So if you can show the work that you're doing with garnering peer reviews, I don't care, you know, pick your platform, pick, you know, who you're working with, but that's huge, because that's showing voice of the customer that is out there for the masses, right? So I always run a report based on peer reviews and what we have going on, and I showcase a couple of those reviews, and it usually really resonates. How many of you are the blissful girl? I guess it's your left. Well, there's not very many of you. How many of you are the other one? The head exploded? Okay. There's good news though. One, I'm here. I'd love to talk to all of you about this, but how do you get there, right? It's really about practicing and some things that you can do. You're not going to become an expert translator overnight. Find a mentor. I'm pretty sure I'm setting that up pretty well for something we're going to do today. Or be a mentee, right? Like, and you can do both. You might be an expert translator at sales, but you're not so great at marketing. You don't have to be all of these at once. Use data-driven communication. I was an English major. I don't like doing my budget spreadsheets. I'm not a numbers person. But I have learned that you can't get anywhere without the numbers, right? But I'm an English major and a marketing person, so I do know that the best thing you can do is pair the numbers with a story. We all know that in this room. But just keep this little motivation, like keep doing that and make those connections. Stay current.
figure out what your CMO, CRO, whatever is reading. Subscribe to a couple of blogs, get a couple of newsletters. You don't have to read it all, skim it. You'll get some key phrases and some like buzz themes out of that, and that's gonna help you continue to hone your translation skills. Teach somebody. I hope you found something that I said, resonated or it's interesting. Share it with somebody else. The nice thing about this is a community. It's a safe space. We're all trying to get there, so share the information. And then finally, ask questions. And I know I don't have a lot of time. I'm not sure how I had it all timed out perfectly. But one, we will always have Paris. So you have your little reminder here. And then those annoyances, how do we turn those annoyances into accomplishments? And not only accomplishments, but action. So anyone has questions, whatever time we have, we've got a few minutes, happy to answer them, or if you just want to let the conversation flow.
You get to be so awesome.
You practice. And actually, I have my mentor, my 13-year-old daughter, that it's like, did I tell you, did I smile? Did I say like an a lot? I need to report back.
Anyone else?
I have a question about you delivering information from a customer to sales in terms of like, hey, here's an upsell cross-sell lead. Is that just an email you send to them, or do you like open an opportunity with the operations team in Salesforce or something? How does that go?
It's currently an email. It's currently an exercise in just partnership, right? That I'm helping you. You need to look into this because it's a qualified lead. I mean, I would call it that, but the salesperson is the one that's going to take that and vet that and put the opportunity into Salesforce. But I am working right now on getting a lot better with the tracking, so it is tracked. I will not lose sight of the fact that I, silver platter delivered that. So it does go into my data on advocacy influence. I'd like to build out a more robust, so it's not just an email, but for right now it is, and then I track it on the back end. Questions? Oh, hang on, I got the mic.
Hello. I'm interested about the networking events, so we can talk about that later too. But I'm interested in how you create the invitation list for that, and if you invite lots of different people, or if you kind of segment it in some way.
It depends, and I am hopeful with Slap 5's help that I will get. So I track preferences. A lot, we've talked about that, right? It's not just like a contract. It's choose your own adventure. I didn't even say it at all in this presentation. But that is my philosophy for advocacy. And so I make sure that they literally check boxes, right, of what they're interested in. So once you harness their preferences, I do slice and dice. And previous world I was in, they thought you should have one advocate per organization. I tossed that out the window because it's not true. You can have multiple advocates within an organization, and you should, because those SVPs, C-suite, that's your cab, right? Those are the people for the cab. But you have amazing directors of IT in my world, security, architects that should absolutely be in your focus groups. And networking events are a much more inclusive environment. And my job is to create the platform and the channels for these customers to connect. That's what resonates with customers, that's what they want to do. So it's my job to make that happen. So I will look at that list. The C-suite might be in their own kind of situation. Product focus groups, I have a section. And then networking events are a little more open. I hope that helps. Last call on question. There's some from Zoom.
Yes. How are you creating a pipeline of customers to be your advocates?
Like I said, 6 months in. So the first thing that I did was a lot of listening and a lot of data analyzing of what we had. Change management is real, folks. It is, if you are building a program, I said when I was hired, I need 6 months. I need 6 months to even just evangelize this thing and make sure that people understand what we're doing if we're going to do it right. So how do I get at that, to answer the question? I look at our whole customer list. I talk to sales. I talk to CSMs. We boiled it down into my targets. So I figured out of, 300 or so that I had, I only really wanted 50. And I have a lot of criteria why I want certain customers. And it's not all because they're puppies, kittens, and rainbows. So I started there. But that's capturing customers in the middle of their journey. Now we're getting the process baked in so that when a customer signs and when they're going through onboarding, I'm engaging the right customers. And when you get really good, I think, in your program and it's mature enough, you get to be picky. It's an awesome place to be where you're actually saying no to advocates. And you will get there, like, if you aren't there already, you will get there, it'll happen. And then I can look at, well, I only want healthcare, right? Or I'm only looking for this geography right now. Because the key is you have to have breadth and depth, but if you're not engaging with these customers, forget it. What's the point of having a program? I hope that helped, person on Zoom. Right. All right. Thank you very much, Allison. Thank you.